In this video, we're going to break down everything you need to know about team concepts in Zenless Zone Zero. We're going to break down some tips on how to build them, the current meta and how it might shift, as well as examples and showcases of a couple of the best teams and units in Zenless Zone Zero. This will range from setting some beginner level groundwork and then going to some higher level content. Sit back, relax, and let's dive in. This video will be a little bit more freeform than my other ones and definitely more discussion based, so feel free to discuss anything in the comments and I would love to hear from y'all. Before we can talk about the best teams, we need to go over the correct way to build them. Obviously in Zenless Zone Zero, much like the other Hoyoverse games, you have a strong focus on team building. In this way, pretty much any of the Zenless characters can clear the endgame content as long as their full team synergy is being used optimally. Just like I say in my other videos, you can literally play and pull for whoever you like. But now let's get to the first few concepts on team building. This is pretty basic, but the concept of attributes is important. Every agent obviously has a certain element they feature in. Ice, fire, physical, ether, electric, you get the picture. All you have to do in this regard is match up the element to the content. The endgame content will require two teams, both for the new Apocalyptic Shadow mode and for Shiyu defense. The second and possibly more important concept is the additional ability of each character. Every single agent in the game features a unique set of skills, resources, etc. that they will heavily rely on. You can also check if this synergy is being met with the characters in your squad with this little smiley face. Let's take our best current attack character, Haramasa, for example. His concept and main resource, Electro Quivers, as well as his additional ability are why he works so well in such a strong variety of teams. Simply put, for Haramasa, this just states that when you have a stun or anomaly character in the same squad, you get all of the listed effects, such as a 40% damage boost. Although this makes Haramasa a bit more on the rare side of attack units since he works so exceptionally well with anomaly teams. Every unit will have a different stipulation for these additional abilities, and while they are mostly important for team synergy, in some cases you can kind of ignore them, especially in the case of our support units since they are so universal in most of the teams that they can play in. Let's take one of our free units as a perfect example, our boss waifu, Nicole Damara. When you have a fellow Cunning Hair or Ether unit on the same team as Nicole, when you use her core passive and apply a debuff, all squad members get 25% more Ether damage. This is obviously very strong for an Ether team, but we can also look at it the other way. All of what makes Nicole really special is built into her primary kit. Because of this, she's a pretty generalized unit, as is the case with most of our support agents, and I still use Nicole a lot for her utility. In fact, because this class of agents is so good, I usually make sure to have a support on every single team that I use. Lucy and Sokaku have amazing attack buffs, Nicole has defense shred and great gravitational pulls on her moves, Rina has great team-wide pen buffs, and a shock damage increase and duration extension. You get the picture. And I know all of that was pretty simple entry-level guidance notes, but now we can start heading into some of the good stuff. Let's start by talking about the current meta and endgame, then we'll switch over to those showcases for the best teams. The launch of the game showed us the absolute power of our attack units, like Ellen and Juyuan. These teams consisted of having the main DPS, a stun unit, and of course, the support we just talked about to glue it all together. However, since then, we have shifted to much different metas. Currently, we are locked into a ton of anomaly agents entering the game. And yeah, I get it, one of them is the storm that is approaching. By a pretty good margin, anomaly is the best category in Zenless currently. It all started when we got Jane Doe, who was absolutely insane in her own right, but the devs have since kept on cooking. Tsukishiro Yanagi took over when she released, and literally even brought her own type of disorder damage that stacks with regular disorder. But yet it still got crazier. Hoshimi Miyabi. I won't go into super detail here, and you can check out the full guide for her if you need. Just know that she is by far our best unit in the game, and for pretty dang good reason. With all of these units in the game, while we are expecting a break, Anomaly will always be viable and is currently the driving force of our meta. We could see this slightly change in the upcoming patches though. Our next agents will definitely shake some things up, being Astra Yao and Evelyn. Our Singer Lady is our first unit in 1.5 as an Ether support, and our Bodyguard Fiery Waifu is our fire attack unit for the second half. But now, finally, the time you've all been waiting for. Who makes up the best teams in Zenless Zone Zero? Let's just get right into it with Miyabi. As a general note, for any specific tips on how to use any of these characters, check out the full Zenless playlist for a big variety of character guides, and also subscribe for more in the future, especially early access on the limited units. Anyway, Miyabi is the main focus on any of the current best teams in Zenless, as she is the current strongest character. Team number 1 in my opinion is Miyabi, Yanagi, who is her best teammate, and Caesar King, although this can be substituted with pretty much any support. On my main account, I currently use a variation of this with Sokaku, Miyabi, and Bernice, which is still excellent at triggering disorders and thus Miyabi's passive. But my friends, do not worry, because if you've seen my other team-oriented videos, you know I also provide free-to-play alternatives to these best teams. For that Miyabi team, she can actually work with a completely free team that we have been given fairly recently. Sokaku, a very good support, Miyabi as the main damage dealer, and oddly enough, Harumasa works pretty well. I mean, I've gotta hand it to them. They have good synergy. Boo! Obviously, this won't be as good as the aforementioned team, but if you don't have the premium units, you can still get that power out of our Void Hunter. Another thing of these anomaly teams is that they can all feature different attribute anomalies. For assault teams, you can use the Spin to Win Piper or my rat waifu Chain Do. Pure shock teams can feature Grace or Yanagi, you get the picture. But where does that leave our nitro fuel obsessed Bernice? Aside from having an absolute banger as her song, Bernice White is still really neat because she also fits into any of these teams. She features an off-field anomaly game style. In other words, as long as you have this meter right here full, you will actively be doing burn and fire damage to the enemy, with Bernice not even active on the field. Although, to be fair, she can still pack quite a punch when she is on the field. Now let's move on to our best attack teams. There are lots of amazing units here to talk about that make these teams real good as well. Our best main DPS attack units are, of course, Ellen Jo, Zhu Yuan, and Harumasa. Soldier 11 and Nekomata are still plenty good in their own rights, and any of the attack units are completely viable in the endgame content with the right teams. The current number 1 attack team is focused around Harumasa, being the best attack agent available at the moment. This will most likely change when our fiery waifu Evelyn comes out though. In the order of Qingyi, Harumasa, and Caesar King, I actually really like this for the double stun premium team. This can be easily switched with what we talked about earlier, since Harumasa works really well even with anomaly units. Think of a team like Harumasa, Grace, and Rina for example, which would be the best shock team for Harumasa by a pretty significant margin. Free-to-play players also have a great option as well, and surprisingly, the Cunning Hairs work really well with Harumasa. Nicole, Harumasa, and Anbi Damara in that order. You can get an even clearer look of this team in my early access Harumasa video, where I was able to even clear Shiyu 7 with pretty good clear time. Notice how this follows that holy trifecta of the original meta we talked about: attack, stun, and support. Additionally, the S-rank stun units are all pretty available for a wide variety of teams, especially when you get to the limited agents. Lighter has a strong, punchy husbando playstyle that specifically buffs both fire and ice teams. But even better than that is Miss Qingyi. When she first came out, I was actually shocked, and I'm sorry for the pun. At the time, she was clearly the best unit in the game, just due to the sheer amount of days and buffs she provides in any team. Oh, and then they went ahead and buffed her too. However, there's 2 more characters that I want to discuss as general really good units you can use when building teams. Both of them are from our defense category, starting with Seth. He provides strong shields, as well as a huge anomaly boost to the character before him, and debuffs anomaly resistance on the enemy. Thus, you should probably think about using him in your anomaly teams. But perhaps the character with the most team synergy in the game on a huge variety of teams honestly feels kind of more like a stun support. That's right, it's Miss Caesar King. I gotta admit though, when Caesar first came out, like in that early access video for her, I wasn't actually the biggest fan. Since then, she has totally grown on me though, and I use her in every capacity that I can. She has a great universal attack buff, as well as a crazy amount of days built into her parry-oriented playstyle. She also has a very unique additional ability too, so she can automatically synergize in a lot of different compositions. In reference to this additional ability, the 4 characters that don't have defensive assists are Billy Kid, Grace Howard, Alexandrina, and Zhu Yuan. In other words, she won't directly synergize with these 4 units and will require a different agent in the 3rd slot. Let's now just put a bow on everything by putting it all together. When making a team, the most important concepts you need to focus on are the typing, the content, and the team synergy. Focus on your elements first, especially with anomaly teams. After this, then start combining units with great synergy. It will definitely help in the long run to focus on those powerful, very universal units. Agents like Ching Yi, Lighter, Caesar King, etc. will make your job a lot easier in any and all of the endgame content, especially now that we need 2 or 3 really strong teams in order to clear it. And that's all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments your favorite teams to use, and I can't wait to hear from you all. I know this one was a little bit more freeform and discussion based, but like the video if it helped in any way. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for those regularly scheduled early access guides coming up very soon for Astriel and Evelyn. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.